Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about something that people have asked me about before, and I thought I had done a video on it, but then I looked through my video and I have not done a video on it, so yay, another video idea. The question that I get asked a lot is, how do I pick my first deck? And I feel like this is a good question. But it's also something that I don't really have an answer to give to people because it depends so much on the person and what their interests are and what they feel drawn to. So it really just depends. But I do want to kind of go over the different kind of card decks that I'm aware of and that I use in my personal practice. This by no means is an extensive list just because I only have card decks that I use that I have felt drawn to. So these are card decks that I like using and that have connected with me on a spiritual level and that I feel connected to. So if they by any means don't connect with you, it's not a big deal. But I just thought I would share them with you because it might help you in deciding what deck you want to start out with, or helping you decide what kind of deck you want to start out with, because there are multiple kinds. The four kinds of decks that, is it four? No, it's three. The three different card decks that I tend to, or that I have found in my personal practice that I connect to the most is Lenormand decks, which are not tarot, they're not oracle. I'll explain it in a bit. Tarot decks and oracle decks. And the difference between these three is an oracle deck is a deck that doesn't have any specific suits. It doesn't have any specific cards. There isn't any certain cards that you will come across in an oracle deck. It's just what the creator feels intuitively drawn to use. So there might be a card for, spiritual awakening. There might be a card for heartbreak. There might be a card for connecting to the other side. It really just depends on the deck, and there's so many oracle cards out there. This is kind of one of the easier decks to make just because, well, I mean, in a way it is, but in a way it isn't, because you're so open that it kind of gives you free will to just do whatever you want and do whatever you please with a deck, and it doesn't have any specific cards to it. So oracle decks come in all different shapes and sizes and styles. This one is by far one of my favorite oracle decks, which is the Messenger Oracle by Raven Fallon. The artwork on this is absolutely beautiful and breathtaking, and I love it, and I connect with this deck very, very deeply. This is one of my most used oracle decks. Other oracle decks come like this, where it's, mermaid oracle decks. I also have a Gaia oracle deck. This by far is not my whole collection. I have a huge collection at home, but I just don't have them with me right now. But if you are going to look for cards that are easier to read and you don't have to memorize meanings for them, it's really good to start with an oracle deck. I find them easy starter decks, just in my experience with them, just because they don't have any specific suits. You're not working with swords and things like that in a very structured system. You're working with a very free-flowing system with the oracles. With tarot decks, which I'm sure you're probably aware of what a tarot deck is if you're watching this video, or if you're looking into card decks, because tarot is a very, very popular system of card reading. Tarot decks can come in a bunch of different styles. This is the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Kranz. I was gifted this deck by a friend, and this is a beautiful tarot deck. I just love this deck. Tarot decks come in a bunch of different styles as well, like similar to oracle decks, but they all have the same meanings to the cards, and they all have the same suits and structures to the cards. So what I mean by that is that with a tarot deck, I believe it's 64 cards that are in a tarot deck, and there's different suits. There's the major arcana, there's the swords, wands, cups, and pentacles. Now, how they interpret those suits is up to the creator. I've seen some people do elements instead of swords and objects and things like that. I've seen other people do other ways of interpreting it. It really just depends on the creator of the deck. With this deck, the swords and the wands and everything are they're just interpreted in different ways, and I like that there's color pops on these cards. They're not all black and white. Some are black and white. It really just depends on the creator of the deck. With the tarot decks, I do find that people are somewhat more skittish to darker decks. And what I mean by darker decks is that it might have more dark imagery on it, maybe very, darker colors, that kind of thing. I know that that really worries some people. It doesn't really bother me just because I don't have trouble with that kind of thing. I actually enjoy darker imagery just because I find it very beautiful and like in a hauntingly beautiful way, but I know that some people don't feel comfortable with it. I know that there are decks like unicorn tarot decks and fairy tarot decks and things like that, but there are also like zombie tarot decks and vampire tarot decks and things like that. So there is a very wide range of what you can find in tarot decks and in oracles that are going to fit with that person's personality and their style of reading and what they're comfortable with and things of that nature. I've known some people who have tarot decks that they use for reading with other people just because they know that other people are more comfortable with it, and then they have a tarot deck that they use when they read for themselves. But ultimately, just pick a deck if you are picking your first one that you connect with. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You need to have one that connects to you and that you feel comfortable with using first. The third kind of card deck I want to talk about today is the Lenormand card deck, which you can call it Lenormand, Lenormand. This is a French style of divination cards. These cards were ones that I was drawn to. I can't even remember how I found out about them, but I found out about Lenormand decks and I was really, really drawn to it. Now, I was drawn to this before I was drawn to actually buying my first tarot deck that wasn't gifted to me. And I was actually nervous about it because this I had heard was very, very specific, but it does have kind of complicated system of reading it. And honestly, when I got into it, I was very overwhelmed and didn't think I would like it. And the more I used it and the more accurate it was and the more straightforward it was, the more I was drawn to it. I don't know that I would recommend this for anybody who's starting off reading unless you're very drawn to it, simply because it is a more complicated system. And I would say the same thing about tarot, to be honest, because tarot decks I find is a system that is hard to learn if you haven't had some sort of experience with it in the past. It's hard to memorize everything and memorize all the meanings and everything, which by no means is the way that you have to read it. I don't feel that there is one way to read tarot or oracle or Lenormand. I feel that there is a very big chunk of readings that is done intuitively, so you have to go off that, but it's also very helpful to know the meanings of the cards and things like that. I do feel like it's a good idea that if you're getting started with tarot or Lenormand readings or card readings, that you would take some sort of educational class or course or get pointers from someone who knows tarot. I did that for tarot and I found it very, very helpful. And I'll link the person that I take the class from down below because I do feel like at least for me, he was someone that I felt drawn to use and drawn to learn under, simply because I just kind of liked his way of just explaining it very simply of what the card stands for him and what it means and different symbols on it and everything like that. And it's really accessible in the way that you can access it from your phone or computer, so you can do it anywhere. And the system that he uses makes it really easy to do like flashcards and ways of memorizing things in an easier, just structured way. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, I would definitely check that out. But like I said, I'll link it below in the description. But as far as actually choosing your first deck, my recommendation would be to first of all figure out, are you the kind of person who doesn't feel comfortable buying cards online, or are you someone who likes to buy cards in person? Because there are two different people. I've met people there's three different people. There are people who don't care either way, whether it's bought online or in person. There are people who will only buy their card decks in person, and then there are people who will only buy their card decks online. So I am someone who I've only bought one card deck in person, to be honest, simply because I really love the variety that the internet has given me of choosing decks and what kind of decks are offered by going online. But I just haven't found that kind of availability to me in person and going to stores and things like that. However, if you are a person who likes going to stores and choosing them, if you have a Barnes and Noble in your area, if you're in the US, I don't know if they have them in the UK or across the world, but in the US, we have a store called Barnes and Noble, which behind the counters, they have tarot and oracle decks, and they will let you hold them as long as you stay by the counter, but they'll let you hold the deck and, you know, look at the box and everything. And then if you don't really care about that, I would just look on Amazon. Amazon has an amazing selection of different card decks, but if you want something more personalized and more harder to find, I would look at Etsy, because Etsy has a lot of different card decks that you can get that are very limited edition kind of thing. They're not easily found places. I've never bought a card deck from Etsy, but I've thought about it because it's really cool. There's a lot of people who make card decks that can't sell them as widely as they would if they did it on Amazon, but they want it to be more selective. So I would definitely look at Etsy in that regard if you're looking for something a little bit more unique. But overall, my recommendation for finding your first tarot or oracle or Lenormand deck or otherwise, just follow your instincts, follow your intuition. If you are feeling drawn to a deck, no matter what kind of deck it is, there's a reason for that. And sometimes people get nervous with themselves because they'll be drawn to like a vampire deck or something like that, and they're like, well, is that too dark? Am I going dark? Am I going to the dark side? And I'm just like, no, you are not. It doesn't mean that. It just means that for whatever reason, your energy matches with that deck's energy, and there's a reason for it. The other thing I like about choosing decks is, you know, if you get one from Barnes and Noble and you buy it and you bring it home and you don't open the box and you don't like it, you can always return it. Same with Amazon, although I believe that you can open the deck and look at it and, you know, feel the cards and everything and then return it and still be okay. Don't quote me on that, I'm not sure, but that's what I assume. I've never actually returned a deck from Amazon because I just have liked all of them. But overall, just let yourself choose a deck that you feel drawn to. Please don't feel like you have to choose, especially if it's your first deck. Please do not feel that you have to choose a deck that someone else feels is right for you. If you feel intuitively drawn to a deck and you feel that it is a deck for you, don't doubt it. Don't say that, oh, you can't have it because it looks a certain way. Just trust your instincts and use it. If you use it for a couple months and you don't end up using it anymore, then you needed it for that certain amount of time. But either way, just follow your instincts, follow your intuition, because your intuition leads you, right? It's led you this far, it's led you to this video, and it's led you to the point where you want to buy your first card deck or another card deck and you're not sure what to choose. So in any regard, follow your instincts, follow your intuition, and choose a deck that you feel called to, because that's very important. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions about buying a tarot deck or anything like that, leave them in the comments down below. If I have not mentioned a place that you know is a good place to buy tarot decks, or if you've found a place that sells a lot of tarot decks or has easy access to tarot decks, please leave it in the comments down below to help other people find tarot decks or oracle decks or whatever, because I want people to have a resource here of where to find things. Also, if there's a kind of card deck that I didn't mention that you would like to mention down below, or that you use in your personal practice and you find is really cool, please leave it in the comments down below so other people can know about it. Like I said, I haven't really gone far out of the Lenormand, Oracle, and Tarot realms, so I know that there are other kinds of divination cards out there, and if there are, I want you to mention them down below so we can research them and know about them. And if you use them in your personal practice, please explain how they're used, simply because I'm curious about it, but I know that will be helpful for other people. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. Be sure to hit the bell notification button to be notified when I post a new video or when I go live. If you're interested in knowing about my live streams or my live reading sessions, please visit my website, which is down in the description down below, which is www.arielwillow.com. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll do my best to respond semi-quickly. But I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you guys next month. Bye.